Good morning, racing fans, and welcome back to the GOMA podcast bronze match for the gold bracket. Today we've got a race between OmegAtoisk and Krithel. Krithel is up 1-0, and we're playing open. My name is Zeke, Highwind, and joining me here in the commentary booth is Ezmar. Welcome, Ezmar.
Yeah, this is going to be an exciting match. Both of these runners very, very good. I believe the difference between them was only 30 seconds in their previous match, so this is going to be a close one. We've got on the tracking, we've got the irritable penguin, and on the restream, as always, or as frequently, we have Oro.
Yes, it was a 30-second difference today. And because I like pointing out the different sprites, we actually have two of my favorites on Showcase today. OmegAtoisk is using Rydia from Final Fantasy IV, and Krithel is using Zero Suit Samus.
Yeah, I always like seeing those action girl sprites. It's a nice fresh change of pace from the usual male-dominated action adventure genre. So here we go. We're starting out in Link's house here. So I wonder if we're going to see Uncle Route from both of these runners.
It's likely, because it is a good way to get early bombs for Kakariko if you get lucky.
Yeah, and if you get really lucky, you can knock out the front of escape right away. Map check.
Oh, we already have a map
check. 3
check.
crystals.
3 blue crystals in the light world today.
Yeah, the advantage of doing this over something else is you can grab that sign, throw it at that guard, get a quick kill, and get that tier 1 tree pull, which is blue rupees. Not terrible. It's certainly not, small magic. That's something
that's
you don't want to see.
That is 1/5 of Bottle Merchant.
Yeah, between that and all the stuff you can get guaranteed in Kakariko.
We got a mushroom off the uncle and blue mail out of the treasure chest.
So it's interesting stuff to see. Not game changing at this point. Certainly not route changing. I imagine we see both runners save and quit after OmegAtoisk grabs that magic and does a quick check on the guard prize pool, and we're off to the sanctuary for the other sort of standard start here that people will do.
Unfortunately, it's just a map of Sanctuary, which means most of our items are going to be in the castle itself or in the sewer.
Yeah, that map in Sanctuary is something you like to see when you're going the front way, the regular standard way through the escape sequence, because then you can just skip it.
That's
by
what
then
you like
can
in a standard match and not an open.
Yeah, I mean, in open, you usually will check that, but for example, in Uncle Route, if you end up finding a weapon and the lamp, you just may well decide to do the whole escape sequence right then and there.
Depending on how comfortable you are with the dark room, you may just do it with the sword.
Yeah, and it's not super
Speaking
frequently.
of the sword,
that's a nice thing to see. That's one of the pitfalls of open is you can get unlucky and spend a really long time without a weapon of any sort.
This is true, and some early bombs. So the Lost Woods was excellent today.
Yeah, if we see a bottle, then that's sort of like all of the stuff you like to see early. I mean, maybe you'd have liked to see one of the 300 rupees to sort of get on your way for Zora money, but you're not complaining here. Krithel is the first out of the forest, heading down towards the village. I think the village has more houses than residents. I've never done the math on that, but it's always seemed like that to me.
I believe you're correct.
There's that guy that has 6 beds,
I've just called him an inn before. And here in Blind's hut, what useful things can we find today?
We do get that 300 rupees.
That's a fire rod.
Fire rod. Nice.
So we already have a fire source.
Yeah, it's interesting. They have changed the logic since, when I first started playing. Fire Rod now puts more Dark Rooms in logic than it used to. Notably, with the Fire Rod, the very back of Eastern Palace is logically accessible. However, the vanilla big key chest isn't. The main difference is whether or not there is a torch in the room. That also puts all of the escape sequence in logic because every room has a torch. They're not easy to light every time, but they're all there.
And there's our glove in Kakariko Well. Who put that there?
And so that's all of our high-density Kakariko items checked out. If we get a bottle, we can, grab those, the two sort of right there with the back of the bar and Sick Kid. More bombs on the bottle merchant, and we have the Cocoa House. But we're just about done with Kakariko here.
And there's our red cane guarded by the chickens.
Now that's not always something you like to see so early. I mean, it's nice to see, but I've come onto seeds before where I end up with Pendant Turtle Rock, and I'm just hoping that my last item is going to be the Cane of Samaria, because if it's not, if you're waiting on something else and you have Turtle Rock access, you might need to jump down there. But as long as you haven't found that cane, that's not a worry.
I'm the opposite. I will always take a Cane of Samaria.
Yeah, I mean, I'll always take it.
If it's Turtle Rock and Logic, I would rather have a Cane of Samaria than not have one.
Yeah, it's nicer to see it this early than sort of early after you already have Dark World access. You know what those dungeons are. If you see
there's a sword on our
Turtle
library
Rock
today.
That's something that may or may not be easy to grab depending on when we find boots.
Depending on when and where we find boots, we'll probably be revisiting that library.
Yeah, given that Desert Palace is a crystal, I'd say it's more likely than not that we're going to end up, not boots in GT Seed. With Pendant Desert, it's a little bit more likely, just because of the likelihood that Desert is boots locked.
I do like seeing the early back of escape check. Although, funny enough, we have one person going in for the back of escape, and one person going in for the front.
Yeah, so Krithel here is just going for the quick high density checks. It's a safe play. Omega is going to make the play that, okay, I'm going to go and just clear this area out. It's all in logic, notably. And if the key's not in the front here, which we know it's not too big of a deal to save and quit to the Sanctuary and do the back of escape just like Krithel just did.
And Krithel setting up for Houlihan. Oh, but he falls into the pit.
Yeah, Houlihan being a failsafe implemented, named for the winner of a contest, I think Nintendo Power back in the day.
Yeah, Chris Houlihan.
It's I feel kind of bad for him since he won the contest, but his room is just sort of a secret bonus that nobody ever found except by accident for the longest time.
I mean, if you do happen to fall into it, it gives you a pretty good reward.
Yeah, it's 100 rupees, I think.
225.
225. Okay. Well, I stand corrected. I've only done it once, and it was a complete accident.
There are 45 blue rupees in the room.
Anytime I see a lot of blue rupees, I just sort of lose track of my math skills.
The answer is it's a pretty good boost for your Zora money.
Yeah, it's not infrequent to see that when you're trying to make sure you have enough, because at this point, with Krithel going down to South Shore here, you want to have that money in hand.
Our hammers and zelda stuff.
Okay, nice. That's exactly what Omega was hoping for with this dive, is finding an item down there.
And then having set up the Death Warp perfectly, too.
Yeah, that was a very nice Death Warp. I found Mirror in that chest before, which is pretty nice. Omega is going to go. Omega is going to go for the back.
It is in logic because of the torches.
Yeah, it is in logic. It's only one check, as we know, because we know that the key is in the back. This would be reasonable to forego, just because having seen the hammer, you may think, okay, well, back of escape, it's going to be a little.
Our Moon Pearl's in Mini Moldorm.
So we have Dark World access right now. between the two runners. Krithel can't get there until
he does.
Yeah,
Until he does
basement.
escape. Omega does miss the torch.
Yeah, these dark rooms aren't terrible. It is really spooky with only 4 hearts, though. That's the thing that's kind of rough here. Is
he does
red
have
boomerang.
blue mail.
Oh yeah, that's right. We did have the blue mail. It's still not the greatest, but yeah, the blue mail does help a lot. I would not be surprised, having done Dark Cross and probably checking the back of Escape right now, if when we see OmegAtoisk pick up the Moon Pearl in Mini Moldorm Cave, he could decide to forego the Ice Rod Cave that Krithel is doing right now, because with that hammer, that's Dark World access right now. It depends on how it probably will actually set up for the water walk and fake flippers stuff with that Moon Pearl, since Fairy Fountain can be checked.
Picks up his ether from the back of Escape. Meanwhile, Krithel is going to be setting up. Given that they're walking back, they're going to be setting up a fake flipper to go check the Zora area and possibly Hobo. Depends on how well they are, how good they are landing that jump back into the water.
Not even taking a peek, just going straight for the Waterfall Fairy and Zora.
I don't blame them to go for the higher density checks here.
Yeah, so these checks are 100% out of logic. With the Moon Pearl, you can go back in here.
And there's Quake. The Zora check, on the other hand, is not out of logic.
Yeah, the King Zora check is. Zora Ledge, however, is not. So that's the other thing about making this trip. Even if you can't, logically get the item here, you know what that is. It's just mail, so
we probably won't be seeing that mail again unless we happen to have flippers and mirror when we check Catfish. We might see somebody go for it.
Even then, in Gold Sword bracket, I would highly doubt it. Blue mail is generally considered enough.
It's a possibility.
Red mail's a bonus. I don't think you go all the way to Zora Ledge for it.
OmegAtoisk is doing Mini Moldorm Cave, so let's see where Krithel decides to go from here. I believe it kind of comes down to either the escape sequence or Eastern Palace, and it does look like the escape sequence is coming back.
And that just makes sense in my mind, because the whole thing is now in logic, whereas Saha's Closet could have something good that's a nice quick 3 checks, but without the bow, you can't easily combo it into an Eastern clear, and without the lamp, even the vanilla big key chest in Eastern Palace isn't in logic. So at this point, when you're sort of waiting for progression in early game, that's something that's important to keep in mind. You can do out of logic checks like Krithel just did with the fake flippers, if it, sort of makes sense, just because it's quick, but you also want to be keeping in mind what the logic is, because you know that those out of logic checks aren't necessarily going to contain anything that's going to sort of help you move forward.
Because while you know it's out of logic, you don't know how far out of logic it is.
Exactly. It could have been the hammer, because the hammer could have been locked in there behind some other thing.
We have that early cane is good for the double crystals in Mire and Turtle Rock.
Notably Ice Palace too. Cane of Samaria saves a bundle of time there.
Green Pendant Pod, and then other pendants are on Swamp and Thieves.
Pendant Thieves Town is always a very interesting proposition in my opinion, just because it's a quick dungeon, it's very easy to access, and that ease of access really gives it a tendency to. There are a lot of items that can be locked in there, because it's really easy for the algorithm to place it there because it's not locked behind anything.
Coincidentally, there's our Ice Rod. But coincidentally, we also have vanilla red crystals.
That's true.
Either vanilla or French vanilla, and they've switched places. I did not catch the numbers specifically.
Yeah, Pendant Pendant Thieves Town and Pendant Swamp. Those are some pretty spooky pendants. Because Pod is kind of is another sort of interesting case. There are a lot of requirements for it, but most of the requirements are just locking you out from accessing the boss. Bow locked side has 2 items that can be bypassed. The only requirements that can't be bypassed just lead to the boss. So it's also relatively easy for an important item to be in there.
There's our flippers from Stumpy.
I think Omega decided to skip those out of logic fake flippers checks too.
I think he did too.
That was a good call.
Which means Omega will probably get his red mail.
Yeah, more than likely.
It's also worth noting, with the spookiness of our pendants, is they are some extremely item-dense dungeons.
Yeah, exactly. I was sort of in the middle of sort of getting to that.
Apologies.
Pod is item dense. No, I mean there's been a lot going on. Pod is item dense. Thieves Town is item dense. Not as many items, but it's a compact dungeon.
And it's also an extremely early sphere dungeon.
Yeah, it's just you can go into those pendant dungeons early. But do you want to? Because if it ends up being... It could be a small time investment, but at this level of play, a small time investment that ends up not paying off can potentially cost you all of that time over somebody who doesn't do it at all.
That said, if it were me, I would probably still check the front of Thieves Town.
Yeah, and that's sort of where the questions start to arise, because there are 4 items in Thieves Town. You can find up to 3 in the front. As few as 0 can be in the front as well, which is also... If you don't find anything in the front, you know all of them are in the back. So it's like, okay, how much do I really want to devote here? That's a hard decision to make. But we'll see when they make their way over to Village.
And Omega's turning in the mushroom.
Yeah, so no fake powder here. Kind of an interesting play. If with the Cane of Samaria and the hammer.
Omega is not against save scumming his mushroom.
I'm against save scumming anything. It has scum right in the name. How could you?
Well, right there, the save scum.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a heads up play too. With the mushroom and the Cane of Samaria, you can fake your powder, which is nice insurance to have, especially if the mushroom is something relatively useless, like the bug catching net, and you can get the magic bat item without having the powder, which sometimes can save you a long hunt for the powder. I just had a seat on the ladder the other night where it was mushroom for fire rod, which unlocked the magic powder in cutscene chest and mire for the hook shot on magic bat. So
that is evil.
Fake powder would have saved me probably 20 minutes of searching. However, I didn't have the Cane of Samaria yet, so.
So while Krithel is finishing his Dark World explorations, Krithel's going to be doing... Oh, I don't think Krithel has the money for Dig Game.
Yes, that would be the biggest explanation for why we're seeing the archery gallery.
They're better at shooting gallery than I am.
Yeah, it's a nice trick to have in your back pocket for situations like this. If you need some money quick and you find yourself really low and you're coming through this area, just grab it. Just have confidence in your ability to take it out, you know.
It's also a trick I would highly recommend if you're interested in playing Inverted.
Yes, because it's very, very early access.
We're going to be seeing the flipper checks now. That's our mitts. We're going to be seeing a mirror soon.
Yeah, so this hobo check that Krithel decided not to do earlier
is a magic cape. Depending on what's on Bumper Ledge, that could be important.
It won't be necessarily a huge item for Krithel to have missed, because Krithel skipped it with the fake flippers. Now with the factual flippers, it's kind of probably a good idea to route it in. And once you get the items for Ice Palace, to go in and do that, because you can sort of jump down, check the Lake Hylia Island as well.
In this case, we'll probably see that when we get the mirror, where our mitts are on that island. Krithel's going to be looking for a mirror when they find that out.
Yeah, it is kind of unfortunate that Krithel didn't take a peek at that earlier.
Notably, Krithel's going to be our first runner into Village of Outcasts.
Yeah, this is sort of, in terms of check density, it's kind of Kakariko light. It feels like there are a lot of checks in there. It's not really that many.
There are a lot of checks, it's just most of them are locked in Thieves Town.
Right, there's Thieves Town, and then there's Skull Woods right above, which is kind of a tease, because you can have 2 items in there, both of which are in the way, way back. Luckily, both of our runners here have Fire Rods, so that's less of an issue.
And luckily, it is a crystal dungeon. Our lamp is on chest game.
So that's mountain access. Without mirror, we don't have full mountain access, though. And Omega picks up that red mail. Stylish.
Given he had the flippers, it's not surprising. Because while it is not something worth going back to Zoraledge for, if you're there anyways and can get it, there's our mirror. Village of Outcasts is the access to our Death Mountain.
Yeah, that's interesting, because you could just leave and go right up the mountain, but there's so much left to do here. Krithel also might be hoping to find mitts, because Krithel doesn't know where they are. Krithel could go get them right now.
If I were a runner with knowledge of the mitts, I would make sure to go get those mitts off of Lake Hylia Island before I go up the mountain.
Yeah, I would. If I were Omega here, once I see that the mirror and that lamp, I sort of finish up whatever I came here to do. You know, we've got maybe
there's at least 2 items in the back.
Yeah, we've got a Thieves Town front dip, Skull Woods. But at that point, you just go grab the mitts and go to Ice Palace, I think. You may be feeling, especially with that red mail, that's going to help. Because we still are really low on hearts.
We have 5 as our max at the moment on the screen. I do believe we had an item in the second check of Thieves Town. Because I believe it was 3 bombs.
Omega about to pick up the lamp as Krithel finds the big key.
Slightly spooky thing chat points out. We have Turtle Rock access.
Yep.
Well, we'd likely have Turtle Rock access.
Yeah, unless Turtle Rock is Bombos, that's we might be looking at a Turtle Rock dive.
That's kind of spooky.
A little bit. Again, we have a lot of checks that are still available. Once they start running dry and we're still looking for stuff, then it becomes a little notably, one of the items we're missing is bow, which is very easy to put in Turtle Rock because Turtle Rock doesn't need it at all, even a little bit.
Also notably, hook shot.
Yeah, again, another item that Turtle Rock doesn't need, but a lot of other stuff does.
Granted, hook shot would be nice in Turtle Rock, specifically in Roller Room. Krithel's making the play into the back of Skull Woods. With King Smart, it does make getting this check right here much easier.
Yeah, we are only at Fighter Sword right now, which makes Moth a little spooky. Another heart, that's gonna help.
I forget there's a bomb wall there.
Yep, it's for that full magic right there, which you want to grab if you're about to do Fighter Sword Moth.
Granted, every time I go to that pot, there's nothing under it. Meanwhile, Omega is going through Thieves Town, and we're going to see what's in the back of Skullwoods other than a moth on a conveyor belt with too many spike blocks.
Yeah, here I would imagine Omega makes the same play. Does the front of Thieves Town, decides to leave and finish off the Crystal Dungeon that's right there waiting. In much better shape in terms of, survivability. However, the fact that most of the damage in that room is spikes means that the mail difference isn't gonna make a huge difference. So he's probably gonna try to take hits from Mothula himself whenever he tries, whenever possible, rather, to avoid getting hit by the spikes.
Meanwhile, Krithel's just going to try and avoid taking hits in general because the Mothula and the spikes are going to do the exact same damage. Now, one thing we failed to comment on was the shovel was in Thieves Town.
Yeah. It also could have made sense for Omega to go down past, Stumpy in Cave 45, check Cave 45 in the flute spot, and then go grab the mitts. But I still think it makes a little more sense to just do the boss here when you can.
It's easy enough to go back to it's easy enough to go back to those checks after Mothula.
Yeah, exactly.
And notably, he's going to want to go up the top side anyways with his cape.
Yeah, that's true. With even if you don't have the hook shot, that is still in logic.
That could be the hook shot for all we know.
Yeah, no trick.
And
Nice hammer moth.
Brings down Mothula for a compass. But
well,
more
unfortunate. Probably hoping that was
crystal.
the second item. So we got one more item still to find in Skullwoods. It is funny that people call that fighter sword moth, but whenever you're fighting moth and you only have the fighter sword, people really take whatever chance they get to fight him with anything else. And in this case, the fire rod and the hammer.
I'd rather do fighter sword, or I'd rather do fire rod Mothula than fighter sword. There are days I'd rather do a fire rod than a golden sword. Omega taking it just a little bit slowly, try and get multi-hits off on those Gibdos. Beautiful.
Yeah, for some reason that never works for me. I've tried many a time, but I've never gotten it.
And in the front of Skullwoods, we find a key. I'm half expecting this to be a pinball big key for a item in the big chest. Or not, there's another heart. So very healthy Skullwoods clear.
Yeah, two heart containers in here. Notably, that red mail with hammer moth is gonna make that fight a little more attractive, since you're again more likely to be taking those hits from moth there, rather than the spikes, and so the red mail is actually gonna help with the hammer.
I don't think I saw Krithel make a bumper check.
Yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense unless you're routing something else into it, like a lumberjack check, which also doesn't make sense without having the item to access that.
I'd consider the bumper check just for the information.
Yeah, it seems like Krithel is not really worrying about information here. Just get items. Just keep going. Because remember, Krithel's been going pretty speedy here. Skipped hobo. Just going for items that you want to have.
And Fighter Sword Mothula is down on Omega's screen. The one downside of Graveyard Ledge at this time is you have to go through the graveyard. Twice, usually. A little bit of a lengthy trip through the bushes and the snake baskets. Omega's not going to like the fact there's a key here. It would have saved him a little bit of time in the room beforehand.
Yeah, it looks like Krithel decided to check Graveyard Ledge first before doing this. Probably to combine the check of a bumper ledge here into, well, I guess maybe a lumberjack check, and then go up the mountain. I think that's what we're gonna see here. Because in that case, you want to go get one more item in Graveyard Ledge just in case it's something you want for the mountain, like Hookshot or Mitts. Well, yeah, Hookshot wouldn't be that big of a deal here since we do have the mirror and the hammer. Titan's Mitts would be a big deal. Krithel doesn't know where they are. Omega does.
Hookshot would be a bigger deal if we already had Titan's Mitts.
Exactly. So we might see Omega make the same check. Probably not as obvious, since again Omega is probably going to want to go get the mitts right away. We also could be looking at it's possible that we see vanilla Hookshot, which would be pretty unfortunate.
The last time I said those words in a commentary session, it ended up happening.
Well, I said it, not you, so I think we might still be okay. I've only commentary cursed once, so...
I've done it about 3 times, so...
Hopefully we can maintain the track record for these runners' sake.
Hopefully. Because if it's a vanilla Hookshot, that's Pendant Swamp.
Yeah, so Krithel going up here without the mitts is committing to, whether he knows it or not, committing to a second trip up the mountain. It's still a good play, especially not knowing where those mitts are.
I mean, you're committed to 2 trips up the mountain at this point anyways. Because we'll have to go back up the mountain for GT, but...
Yeah, exactly. But with Tower of Hera being a crystal, there's not that many items up there, and it's very possible that you could, if there's nothing on the mountain at all, make a single trip up Death Mountain. At this point, it's not, you're not hopeful for that, but you could get away with it.
Omega's doing his magic bat check.
Yeah, using that cape to use up some of that magic for the fake powder that I mentioned earlier.
I am a bigger fan of just spamming fire rod shots to drain magic.
Yeah, so at this point, Krithel, to do desert, is going to need to see... If Krithel sees the book, that's going to... Okay, well, now I can do desert. Omega, knowing where those mitts are and having access to them, could get access to Desert Palace with just the flute, which we're going to need to see for Meyer at some point anyway. So Krithel might be in a better spot if something important is in desert, and Krithel finds the book on the mountain here. Depending on where the logic wants us to go in terms of the route, this could sort of swing either way. We have enough items that are in limbo that it's sort of hard to call this right now.
The only thing we can call this at this point is a good race.
Yeah, this is actually... I've seen a lot of races, and it's not often that you have such a... So Krithel's a little bit ahead in terms of physical progress through the game, but Omega has good knowledge and the potential for a really good routing decision, as we find the bow in K45, which is something that would have been a much more obvious play to make if Krithel had that previous knowledge of where the mitts were.
K45 has a bow.
Yeah, it's pretty big. That play was made specifically because Omega knew where those mitts were, making this route very attractive.
Oh, and Trollorm is being Trollorm himself. The other notable thing with this route, with this routing decision from Krithel, it is possible to find that hookshot up here on Death Mountain just due to density, as Grim Legend pointed out in chat.
Yeah, so... And that's kind of interesting here, because Omega's got, okay, that bow, that's another go mode item checked off the list. Getting the mitts, that's another item Krithel's still looking for. But there are a lot of really good items that Krithel could find with this early mountain play that could sort of even that out quite a bit. A hookshot being one of them. Again, what I mentioned before, the potential for book allowing access to an important item in desert early could be a factor. Say if flute is in desert and book is required to access it. then Omega might put that off a little too long. Could be boots up here.
I would say that the likelihood of Omega going up the mountain shortly is very high.
Yeah, I would say so.
Because he's got an absolutely enormous number of checks up here. And there's our mitts pickup for OmegAtoisk.
Yeah, Omega's poised to get the flute on Trinex. I would be surprised to see that play, but I'm sure that's where the flute is.
Do you want these runners to suffer?
No, I've just seen it there before, so of course that makes it more likely that it's going to be there again.
Spiral Cave Magic Powder. We know that that's nothing.
Well, magic powder itself is quite useful, but
yeah,
we're gonna see Omega make with the bow. We're gonna see the eastern play into probably a pod dip, maybe full clear just for the green.
It does look like
attacking pyramid first.
For pyramid. We see a mere deletion to get into this door of pod. I don't usually see people go in this door of Paradox Cave.
Yeah, going in this door of Paradox Cave is great when you have the mirror. A lot of people will forget to do it, but it's a lot faster if you have the mirror available. It's especially good if you've got the mitts for Dark World access, because then you can just leave the portal outside and go right back into Super Bunny Cave.
Nothing on the pyramid. And nothing in Paradox.
Poor Krithel. That's not what Krithel wanted to see. And again, without the cape, for Omega, Spike Cave is going to be in logic. Well, no, not quite yet, because Omega doesn't have a bottle. If for Spike Cave to be in logic, it requires the cape or the Cane of Burna, and if you have the cape, it also requires you to have a bottle first before that item is put into logical access.
I believe it's in logic with cape if you have half magic as well.
Krithel sees that that Titan's Mitt right now.
He's probably going to be grabbing that right now.
Yeah, again, that's definitely not one you want to see after finding nothing in Paradox Cave after your first mountain climb. It's like, well, shoot, now I can go up and do Hookshot Cave, and that's where it was all along.
Although, if I were Krithel, I would route your mirror check-in real quick over on Cave 45.
For sure, yeah. You don't want to come down for one item and then go right back up.
You do have a hammer to get back around, but it's still a little slow. Meanwhile, in Eastern Palace, we have an early map. You don't like the likelihood of having to go through Vanilla Big Key just for time commitment it takes.
Yeah, it's looking likely now though, with the dungeon item already showing up. So the only possible thing that could be in that Vanilla Big Key chest that would save our runners having to go check it would be the compass.
Krithel is now swimming over to visit the hobo.
Which is good. It's good to do before going back up, because that's gonna allow that spike cave check that I mentioned.
I do like the early... I do like putting off until you can do it from the Dark World, because of that ladder right outside.
Yes, it's one of the few areas in the game that has more convenient access from the Dark World than the Light World. Usually the Dark World is just overall a less convenient world.
Apparently, according to Vortex in chat, there was a glove on Lake Hylia Island last time. Also worth noting, Krithel's going into Palace of Darkness and Eastern without that bow.
Yeah, that's
and
pretty
we have
rough.
an item in the back.
Without the knowledge, but the knowledge that we have, it seems pretty dumb. But from Krithel's point of view, there's a lot of stuff in pod. I also don't think Krithel checked the Saha's closet yet either. So, yep, still has that to check. And you never know, there could be another bow in one of those locations. I do recall a a very entertaining race where rather than finding the bow in Turtle Rock, one of the runners decided to go everywhere else first and actually found the other bow on a Green Pendant turn-in and was able to take the race off of the back of having the extra bow and the extra equipment. It was a great race.
The blue cane. That reminds me of another funny bow placement I've seen before. Green Pendant Argus had a bow. The other bow was on Green Pendant turn-in.
That's classic. Classic Rando. And Omega is heading back to the rear of Eastern Palace. Krithel doing pod first, finding the Bombos medallion. However, the rest is bow locked.
So they'll be going in to get 2 items out of Eastern Palace.
Yeah, so if that first chest is a key, then the pod play can sort of continue. Krithel could have. Well, no, we don't have a bottle. It's technically possible to skip the bow requirement on the bow locked side. But even if that were possible, I would not be surprised to see it skipped, because the one thing you're hoping to find here would be a bow, and you can't find that out of logic in bow locked pod. Sure
you can. I've actually had it before.
Well, I suppose you could find the second logical bow. That's true. But it still seems like you'd want to dip and go to the Crystal Eastern first.
It's not likely to find that second bow on bow locked pod. But boy, is it funny when you do. It is surprising that we're as far in as we are into the seed, and we haven't found a bottle yet.
Yeah, it's a relatively bottle impoverished seed. Sick Kid has the other bow, calling it now. All 4 bottles in GT.
No, of course not. 1 bottle's on pet.
Oh yeah, my mistake. So yeah, this is working out really well for Omega. Krithel making a play that's a little bit too bold. And again, this all sort of comes down to having that earlier mitts knowledge, knowing that the mitts were there, the routing to get there that Omega took, led him right to that bow in Cave 45.
I would like to just read this joke out of chat. Nobly, who's one of our mentors in this tournament, said that this is pretty bottlenecked.
One could call this a bottlenecked seed.
So now we're going... The one thing is, if nothing's in this pod other than the Bombos, then this is a pendant pod.
Yeah, again, that Bombos could be important. But, again, so yeah, what we find in the back of pod here is going to determine... Because Krithel might not find an excuse to go back there, especially if there's nothing here. Because then you're likely to find it elsewhere, where it actually is.
They'll have one excuse in here, to come back here.
Yeah, this is...
They could come... They do have to come back to this area to do Eastern.
Yeah, but again, depending on when that happens, it may still not make sense to take all the time to do pod as well. Eastern is faster to get to if you're just doing Eastern. Again, it's going to depend on what Omega sees here.
It's also worth noting that while pod usually only has 5 items, this technically could be 6.
Yeah, and an easy 6 too, with the Green Pendant turn-in being right there. We're going to see Krithel go down to Ice Palace. This is a good play here.
Omega making sure to restock on arrows after that Armos fight.
With no bottles, Krithel is going to have to watch magic. Bombos eases that up a little bit since you don't need a full magic bar to start the boss fight.
And with the exception of the... I don't remember. Is it better to use Bombos in Freezor Room or 2 Fire Rod shots?
Yeah, I'm not sure about that.
It's easy enough in the entrance because that's just use a fire rod shot. Also, this room sucks if you don't have a hook shot or a better sword.
Yeah, even with Master Sword, it's a little obnoxious.
My preferred weapon here is hook shot.
Yeah, if you're good, you can use the hammer for it. If you're a little less good, you just suck it up and use bombos. It's a time loss, but if you're not good, it's faster than trying to flail around with the hammer until they're all dead.
I don't know. It still might be fast, depending on which penguin room we're talking about. It still might be faster to just use bombos. It depends on how good you are at the hammer.
And meanwhile, Omega hasn't seen anything noteworthy in...
My apologies to our
right
tracker, Irritable Penguin, for talking about the pen gators in such a way.
Speaking of our tracker, I believe that we did see Omega pick up that Bombos medallion.
Yes.
Just watching out for you.
Good icebreaker from Krithel. Gotta love the extended door state.
Yeah, it's an interesting clip. It's pixel precise, but thankfully not frame perfect. So, well, it kind of is frame perfect in a sense because you do have to move a single frame of movement. But
it's an easily buffered frame perfect. Because you can buffer
frame perfect isn't a fast frame perfect though. Buffers are slow.
For me, I would rather buffer it than miss 6 times.
There we go.
That is awful.
Oof. Yeah, that's about the worst non-strictly right now required item would have been if Omega found the boots in here, because that wouldn't be like huge, but it would have given Omega another sword, and also the boots are just make you fast. So yeah, Omega, I think with that flute, we're seeing a lead here on Omega's side. It's sort of been in flux.
We have not found much here in Ice Palace, have we?
Yeah. I mean, it's Ice Palace progress that Krithel has over Omega here. But again, Omega has the bow still. Omega has now the flute. So Omega's got a firmer grasp on this seed than Krithel does right now. Krithel's sort of hanging on to the side of it. Omega's sort of got a big chunk in his palm.
I'm not the... Well, actually, I was going to say I'm not the biggest fan of doing Helmasaur here, but Helmasaur does have an item, and he has the green pendant. I would probably leave if it weren't for that green pendant potential.
Yeah, I think the reasoning here, I'm putting thoughts in Omega's head right now, so I hope you'll all forgive me for that. But, you know, thinking of the routing that led you to that bow, you know, you could be thinking, okay, you know, it's possible that I found the bow a little bit early. And in that case, you sort of might be thinking, okay, well, finding that flute was big, because it would have been really easy to make a pod dip a little bit earlier and not have access to that flute. So you might think, okay, well, there maybe wouldn't be that much harm in doubling down and finishing it for 2 more items. It's a little bit of a you know, risky play, because it's a decent time investment for, you know, a bit of a greedy sort of thing. You know, you've already gotten the flute. What else do you want, man? But
having both watched several of his races and had the pleasure of playing co-op, one thing about Omega is he is very thorough when he does dungeons. Yeah,
because that's another thing too. You don't want to have to come back to this. That's the worst case scenario Omega is covering right now. Omega is covering
going back is a time investment.
If something important, and we do have several very important things that we need to find yet. Well, do we?
We need a hook shot.
We need hook shot and potentially boots. But yeah, again, so if hook shot ends up being on Helmasaur or green pendant, That is going to be a hard last location if Omega doesn't do this right now. So it kind of makes sense from that perspective. The gamble would be skip it. It's going to be somewhere else. Because again, Omega hasn't been up the mountain at all yet. Another sword.
That's nice.
That's going to pay off. It's going to pay off. We know where 3 swords are. Krithel might not see that. Unless Krithel decides to finish off Pod as well.
And that depends on if Flutes is go mode.
Yeah, if Flutus is go mode, Krithel might be staring down Master Sword Ganon. Which is not an enviable position at all.
That depends on where sword number 4 is, too.
Yeah, and if we need the boots. If we don't need the boots and the boots are in GT, we might need to find sword number 4 for Krithel. Because the game does require Master Sword to defeat Ganon.
The green pendant, on the other hand, does not pay off.
I was really hoping that would be Silver's. That would have been so gross.
I was hoping that was our bottle.
Silver's on Sick Kid, yeah, that makes sense.
Krithel's doing smith chain and hammer pegs over here.
Yeah, we're probably going to see K45 soon, and then Krithel's going to be really upset.
K45 routes in nicely with that purple chest.
It does, but it's slower. I mean, it's doing all this stuff before finding that bow in K45 is going to be really upsetting. It's like, dang, I was just over there. Man, I feel for Krithel right now.
Very technically, Nobly points out in chat again, if boots are not required, we are in access to GT mode.
Yeah, and the hookshot could be in the last room before Moldorm 2. That is a possibility. The logic could want us to do that.
It's vile, but it's a possibility.
Yeah, I think the game logic also requires Silvers to be accessible before Ganon too. So those have to be somewhere. But again, you don't have to pick them up. A lot of the time they're just somewhere in GT basement.
Correction. We are not.
Oh right, yeah. You need
boots or hookshot to get into Misery Mire.
You need one of those two. Yeah. So Nobly, you're wrong.
Don't be rude to the chat.
I'm sorry. It's all in good fun.
Chat corrects both Nobly and myself with the logic. Thank you, chat.
But that's actually interesting to note. The boots can be used to enter Mire from that first room. It's one of those things where you might not expect it to technically be in logic, but
I love
it is.
bonk logic.
The game does account for that.
The game has bonk logic.
The word bonk is just so good. That's really my favorite thing about this whole community is that we have reason to use that word more frequently.
My favorite, to go with the bonk logic, while we're seeing some backtracking for a minute, also available with boots, the first check in Hookshot Cave is accessible by bonk.
Yep, in logic.
As is the GT Firebar room.
Yeah, that room is a bit fun because you can get a lot of places with bonks. You can't quite get everywhere, but bonks will take you far.
I've had the joyous pleasure of having my hookshot in that GT Firebar chest room.
That's certainly unique. Hookshot is required for a lot of things. You don't often not need it for that long.
Well, to be fair, it was entrance randomizer, so it wasn't actually that far in.
Okay, well then.
But also, still, that's evil.
Yeah. It's one of those things where it's like, oh, come on, game. You really expect me to know that much?
Krithel is going to deliver our purple chest to the locksmith.
Some called him Gary.
I don't call him Gary because Gary's the old man on the mountain. I still think we need to find a community name that isn't Gary for this locksmith.
Now, Krithel has the fire shield, which is... I mean, you don't care about the first shield, and you might care a little bit about the fire shield. The fire shield helps in a lot more circumstances than the blue shield. Krithel's making the play for swamp. This makes a little bit of sense, honestly. Just because of, the routing. You don't want to go right back to Palace of Darkness and Eastern. Especially if, you're still looking for some stuff. You're right here at Swamp. You've been leaving stuff on the table all seed. You might want to cover your tracks a little bit and...
Krithel might be looking for a flute in here, too.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Krithel needs the flute. Omega only needs the hook shot. Or the boots.
And our good friend, the Cold Star. We'll have a slightly easier fight because, Master Sword's better than Fighter Sword. It's always good to keep your Cold Stairs clumped up like that.
Yeah, I mean, even with the Master Sword, you get a much, much easier fight if you can get them into the corner.
Luckily for him, he has red mail, because otherwise those Cold Stair hugs hurt.
Yeah, that is... part of the reason for that, of course, is that in the vanilla game, you get the blue mail in that dungeon. So they're like, you know what? If the player ends up skipping the big chest, we're going to very gently encourage them to go look for it by making the boss do 1 billion damage.
Every boss
it's
following
what,
this
6?
point.
It's 6 without blue mail on green mail? 6
I want to say it's 4.
Might be
I want to say it goes 4, 3, 2.
I want to say something does 6. That's maybe Vitreous contact damage.
I know Ganon does 8.
Ganon's rude. Yeah, this Swamp Palace dip on Krithel's side is... Not only is it a little unfortunate given that we know where the flute is, but it's a questionable play at best. Pendant Swamp without hook shot, it's very hopeful. And Omega's just going to have free reign of the mountain. Krithel knows that Light World Mountain is basically nothing. Omega's got everything up here. Everything short of Hookshot Cave.
And that depends on what's in Dark Death Mountain. He could have Hookshot Cave if Hookshot or Boots is up here.
Yeah, it would be better probably to have quick checked Meyer Shed first. Maybe just trying to bank that this mountain trip is going to be necessary for the hookshot, and then you only make 1 trip over there. It's not a bad
there's one place that would be awful to have progression right now. Neither runner visited our good friend Agina.
Yeah, that's true. Again, that's something would be fairly easy to route if we had gone Meyer. So it's coming up soon enough. It sort of would have been the other option, other than going up the mountain, would have been Omega checking Meyer, Checkerboard, Desert, and Agina's Cave.
I'm not sure I'm a fan.
With both Meyer and Desert being not completable right now, then it's kind of not great to want to do that.
What just happened? I think we just saw a mishap on Omega's stream, but
nothing in Spike Cave though, by the way.
I'm not the biggest fan of that early Spike Cave play, but
yeah, it's nice to make that the last check you do on the mountain. Just because walking out is expensive in terms of hearts magic, he just barely squeaks it out.
I'm amazed he made it out of that.
That would have been a nice play if he found the hook shot, I guess.
I'm not the biggest fan of that play.
Yeah, especially with how the items have sort of come up relatively quick for Omega here. 1, maybe 2 items from Go Mode at less than an hour in. You don't think you're missing so much time that you want to do Spike Cave first. It's just so nice to do that last. Maybe deciding, oh, maybe if the hookshot's here, I can hair pot. Gotta love that red mail death warp.
I do like dodging the Moldorm and then running into it and realizing, oh no, it does a quarter heart.
Yeah, that's one of those things with red mail death warps is you're not used to setting up those death warps with the red mail, but
so I believe we saw our 2 items are up on the upper levels.
I think so, because I think I would have noticed if Krithel had to do the basement.
But that was like 20 minutes ago, and we've been enjoying this race too much.
Yeah, Krithel has no need to go into the tower. Already did that. Gonna head right over to these Dark Death Mountain checks. Unfortunately, only 3 are available. Outside of the, of course, Turtle Rock dip. For, of course, I said this earlier, definitely didn't say Flute on Trinex, I meant Hookshot on Trinex. Bottle on Trinex for Hookshot on Sick Kid. No Hookshot Pendant. Or Pedestal, rather. That's off the table, so that's good news for these runners.
We still have the possibility of boot Pedestal.
Yeah, we may not need the boots. Again, we haven't seen Desert yet.
I'll be honest, my least favorite thing I've seen happen with Pedestal was boots on Pedestal for a not boot block desert, but boot blocked GT.
Yeah, that's rough.
Bombos was required for Turtle Rock today. So it's a good thing Pod was to play first.
Well, maybe. If Turtle Rock is actually ends up being nothing, then we because if our progression could still be in Mire, we don't know. There's a bottle in Super Bunny. So that's our first bottle. We can check Sick Kid.
We are 1 hour into this seed, and our first bottle is on Dark Death Mountain.
Yeah, so right now the biggest hopes for not having to go into TR are Sick Kid and the entire Mire area. Krithel doesn't know where the flute is, so I would say Krithel probably goes for the Turtle Rock play. We might see Omega go for it, but the possibility of it being between Mire and Desert, all that stuff that's like right there, it's a lot less likely that we're going to see Omega go for this.
I actually would think we'd see the Turtle Rock dive here, because we don't know where Hookshot or Boots are, and we need one of those. And this is a easy 6 items.
Relatively.
Quote unquote easy 6 items.
Yeah, I would expect it to be less likely for Omega to make this play, because it's a pretty obvious play for Krithel. So Krithel's like, okay, well, what do I do? Krithel's options are going back to Eastern and Pod, which is not attractive for a number of reasons. So it's pretty obvious for Krithel. It's a little less obvious for Omega, but yeah, I'd still say that Turtle Rock is a good play here, no matter what. Of course, now that they're both probably going to go to Turtle Rock, the Hookshot is definitely going to be on Sick Kid now.
I do like that routing to set that portal in the Dark World.
Yeah, that's a heads up portal right there.
Our silvers are in TR.
Well, it's interesting if Omega decides to skip it. That would be very interesting.
He can't skip it.
Well, he could.
It would be insanity to skip it, because you have to go in there to get a key anyways.
Well, this is all assuming he decides to do Turtle Rock. You're making assumptions here.
I mean, he has to do it at some point.
Oh, that's true. For some reason, I was thinking it was a pendant this seed. Probably because we were talking about that right at the start of the race. Yeah, in that case, yeah, you definitely just do Turtle Rock because you're right here. All of my colorful commentary was based on false premises.
No worries, none at all. So the front of Swamp was nothing. The front of Thieves was nothing, but the front of Pod was absolutely everything we needed.
Yeah, so I guess the real question is gonna be, is Hookshot here or is it in Meyer Shed area?
And again, we don't specifically need Hookshot yet. We need one of Hookshot or Pegasus boots.
For Meyer access. Logically, we do need the Hookshot before we clear GT, unless either of these runners know how to hover.
I would that's what I'm saying. We could see Hookshot. I have seen the unfun presence of Tile Room. So I always assume the worst with my seeds, I'll admit.
Now, this is almost what is colloquially referred to as a hover seed. However, without the boots, you can't really call it that.
The biggest question we have at this point, well, we have two questions. Where's the Hookshot and where's the boots / are we boot blocked?
Yeah, Krithel notably still at Fighter Sword.
We've only found the one sword. We've only found the two other swords, one of which is on Pendant Helmosaur. The other is on a library we don't have boots for.
Yeah, if we find late boots, Krithel might actually have to go around hunting for another sword. At that point, I would imagine Krithel just... like, if we find boots in GT or something, garbage like that, I would imagine Krithel just like, okay, nope, I'm just grabbing the one in the library. I'm not looking for this. Maybe a full clear of the basement, hoping for another sword, but it's really not a great spot to be in for Krithel.
I wonder if Omega realizes he has to go around.
At this point, yeah. That's sort of when you realize it. After you light the first two, you're like, ah, shoot. Luckily, it kind of works out to be just enough time for the first ones to go out so you can change your mind right there.
So there's three or four items on the laser bridge today. What useful things will we find there?
Bombs, arrows.
And the compass.
Bombs, arrows, compass. Oh boy.
Let's not kid ourselves up. Bombs are useful. It'll be arrows, 20 rupees, and a compass.
Have we seen the single green rupee yet?
We've seen one of them. I believe there's 2 or 3 of those. It'll be one green rupee, the validation arrow. This room is not fun without boots. Just shoot it.
A lot of people would say this game is not fun without boots.
That's why there's a casual boots category on the ladder. When you have a fighter sword Trinex staring you down, you open the safety door. Oh no, the laser.
Just destroyed the game too. It's just frozen.
Not a fan of that reset.
Yeah, it might have just hardlocked. That's
rough.
We didn't even get to see what was... We didn't even get to grab maybe the hookshot. Ooh, what is Krithel gonna do?
Pod.
Yeah, I guess you have to. And then we're probably gonna see... Do we see Krithel go into Meyer area?
When that happens, you change your route, because you did not find anything outside of those silvers in the front. And you have to go back up there anyways.
With the silvers, we might see Krithel pick up that second sword after all.
Worst case scenario right now would be boots and hookshot on laser bridge.
Yeah, that would be absolutely, that would be curtains for Krithel. And that's just kind of unfortunate. I mean, I won't say it's not at all even slightly Krithel's fault, because you can put yourself in a position where that can't happen. But I mean, most of the time you don't really get a hard lock from that.
I have never seen a hard lock off of Laser
Yeah,
Bridge.
it would have been a death, but the hard lock is new to me.
So I would be upset over that one if I were Krithel.
Yeah, until we saw that reset, I was like, oh, it's just something with the stream.
I thought it was a stream freeze.
Yep. But if it was a stream freeze, we would not have seen a reset.
So Omega, realizing he's still looking for stuff, might want to check Mimic Cave. I believe we know that's 10 arrows, but
Chat saying that apparently that hard lock is really easy to do. So I'm going to blame Krithel for allowing that to happen. It's not fair for me to do that. I know. Yeah, and Krithel doesn't have silvers anymore.
He doesn't have silvers, he doesn't have a bottle.
Oh no. Sick kid.
The fact that that's a hard lock is kind of dumb.
I mean,
this game.
You're not supposed to
it's
die.
not like this. It's true.
You're supposed to have the mirror shield. Come on, just use that.
I mean,
yeah, that's rough.
Yeah. Everyone knows this game is coded perfectly and has no bugs or glitches at all.
I mean, that one I can forgive the developers for, again, just because of that, just because of the mirror shield. Because it's what you have to get shot by the laser on the first frame, and this was the 1.0 release.
Dazed, you can't play hookshot on pedestal in this seed because the hookshot is needed for swamp.
And we're going to be seeing fairly soon what's on Laser Bridge. That's the one thing, we haven't seen the half magic yet, which makes that Laser Bridge a little rough. No half magic, no boots. It actually makes it's a sort of the rare occasion where actually getting to that safety entrance is not particularly safe. Usually the two enemies that stand between you and that exit are sort of formalities. That Helmasaur was not too bad. This one is not vulnerable to arrows. Ooh, he's gonna go for it first. The red mail, it's not that tough of a call to make. Nice perfect pixels there to dodge those lasers. It's not trivial. Not super tricky, but it's definitely far from trivial. Oh, I guess that one does die to silvers. I think it's regular arrows that don't kill them. Haha, silly me. Well, Krithel's gonna find the flute, which is good news there. Unfortunately, that's like, it's just gonna put Krithel on par with Omega at this point, and Omega's an entire Turtle Rock ahead. That's a horrible way to lose a lead, or an ostensible lead, rather. Laser Bridge was nothing, so unless we see something on Trinex here, which is possible, that's good news for Krithel, I guess. Yeah, and Krithel was already behind just off of the back of not being able to get what they're about to pick up right now, which is those that flute. Omega opting for the Master Sword with Trinex rather than the hammer. Ooh, Omega, that's not enough magic, friend. Yeah, it's very strange to not see hammer strats when you don't have half magic. And nice knowledge though to pick up that small magic pot there. So to get the anti-fairy there for the heal. So you do get a guaranteed full magic. No guaranteed full health though. Now, little does Omega know that as bad as that is, it's not a hard lock.
So here's the thing. With the magic setup he has now, he cannot miss a shot. If he's going to insist on using Master Sword here.
Alright, that's one head down. If it just jukes like that, that's it's pretty bad. I would go for the hammer now. Hammer's not that hard, honestly. I don't. Maybe Omega's not comfortable with it, but
so,
man,
this fight is rough.
This is a clear indicator to me that Omega does not like hammer Trinex. You have red mail. You've got 11 hearts. The only reason to not use the hammer strats without half magic is just complete and utter lack of confidence in your ability to execute it. Because I mean, sure, hammer it puts you in danger of taking more hits, but it's way better than using the Master Sword there.
And so Krithel plays the Highwind national anthem.
Yeah, man, hammer Trinex is you got to be able to at least try it. Just for this reason, because this is a clear indicator you do hammer Trinex here. It's baffling to me that we're not even seeing an inkling of it. Hammer Trinex is rough with blue mail sometimes, but with red mail, there's no real reason to take the extra cycles. You can just get right up in there, take the hits if you need to. You see Krithel going into Mire Ledge finally, or Mire Shed rather. Oof. Okay, so this is making up for that hard lock quite handily.
Omega is bailing.
I don't blame him. If you don't know how to do hammer Trinex there, what do? Keep trying? That's gonna lose you so much time in the long run.
I mean, I'll admit, I would do Master Sword Trinex, but I've done so much practice with Master Sword Trinex. Because sometimes you just don't have the luxury of having a hammer going in there and cross keys.
Yeah, and that's just one of those things. You can be a top level runner and have complete unfamiliarity with something just because it never comes up. I'm surprised to see this. Yeah, there's boots on Desert Ledge. So that's actually this is looking really good for Krithel now. Oh, Omega's about to find them. Omega's gonna find them in short order. Omega might be planning on, I don't know, what are we planning on here? That's a great place for boots to be, by the way.
Boots that aren't required for desert.
This is going to be interesting to see. Omega didn't see the boots. Omega's not going to save that portal. Omega's going to go back and do Turtle Rock again with the equip of that mirror.
No, he's not.
Isn't he?
No.
That portal's going to... disappear?
Oh, he's not saving the portal.
Right, yeah. Which would have been a nice thing to do if you're just grabbing the potions, but apparently...
You can't with the hook shot.
Right, exactly. We're going to do that
Without
all
the-
over again.
So, the one advantage that Omega will have for going back there is all of those doors are open.
And Tempered Sword is going to be in his hands. Krithel's only going to have Master.
It's going to be in his hands if he goes back for the Tempered Sword, which I would.
He will.
After watching that sword fight, I would go back for it.
If you die twice on Hammer Trinex, not doing Hammer Trinex, doing Master Sword Trinex, there's no point in going back if you know you can get Tempered. Yeah, and I was fully expecting this. This is why I was saying it. It made sense given that Turtle Rock was a crystal. Go down, you know, chances were pretty good you could find another sword. Not that good because you knew one was in library, but yeah, it's. I would have made maybe the questionable at the time decision to go to Mireshed first, and I would have been rewarded for it. That's what it comes down to sometimes. You make a dumb play in the heat of the moment, and it just works out for you. It
was only questionable given that they were on the mountain at the time.
Yeah.
So if you'd flown here first, it would not have been a question at all. Cause
yeah, I was kind of surprised we didn't see that. We saw the straight mountain play. It didn't make that little sense just because Omega had never been up there.
For Krithel, it was surprising we didn't come here first.
Yeah, that's...
Actually, no, it wasn't, because Krithel didn't have the flute at the time.
Yeah, Krithel didn't have the flute. Omega had the flute. Having found that flute, though, I would have probably prioritized the Mire area check. Since no logic was broken to get that flute. Omega just had that bow in hand. Was ready to rock.
Krithel, unfortunately, running out of magic for Fire Rod Shot, so we have to finish off this last landmo with a sword.
Krithel's a little bit ahead in terms of progress right now, but again, that sword difference is going to be big for Omega going forward.
Going back about 10 minutes when we were discussing before we realized Mire needed either hookshot or boost, we're back in. We have access to GT, but we're not in go mode.
Yeah, we have access to GT. Hookshot can be in there. And having seen those boots, I would imagine these runners are aware of that possibility. Especially both of them having seen almost everything in Turtle Rock other than the item on Trinex. Well, Krithel still thinking it could probably be on Laser Bridge, and probably is.
Chad points out one other lead that Omega has going into Misery Mire next. This Vitreous fight's going to be awful for Krithel.
Yeah. It's not the worst. Cape is available. If you really need to, you can, you can cape Burna to avoid damage if it's coming down to it. The bombs can do a pretty good job of handling the small eyes, and the big eye is a formality with arrows. But yeah, it's gonna be a triviality for Omega.
I like where Krithel's under-equipped for Mire. I do like this quick trip to King's Tomb.
King's Tomb, Bonk Rocks, through... you don't get to do the bottle turning because that
and
bottle vanishes into the ether, and getting that Master Sword. Omega is going to chance it. This also makes sense since the Master Sword is already in hand. Krithel not... Yeah, Krithel... Yeah, and the silvers. Master Sword just, sometimes can help in the dungeon itself. Not really, I guess, in Mire, but... Yeah, this... Krithel is staring at... Okay.
Oh.
That's interesting. Very interesting.
Krithel's in go mode, with the exception of his sword, and he knows where that is.
Yeah, I would imagine, though, Omega might not go straight there. Again, that knowledge that the hookshot could be in GT might lead Omega to assume that the hookshot is in GT. Especially, clearing out Desert, clearing out Mire, and then all it is Turtle Rock and Ganon's Tower, so why waste time on those boots checks other than grabbing that sword and going straight back up? You think you already lost so much time to those failed Trinex fights.
If he goes back for the sword, it would be wise to check the boots checks on your way.
It would be wise, I'm gonna say it wouldn't be unheard of to skip them. The other point being though that they're both there. You know, if there was just one thing in an area that you just sort of have to go out of your way to check, that would be one thing. If there are two checks, you may want to just grab them both.
The fact that we just went from looking for GT mode to Go mode in the span of minutes is amazing. That hookshot spot is awful.
Yeah, anything there this late in the seed is rough. Just because it's, you know, there's a lot of stuff that's open to check, you know, not much of it. We could see, I don't know. So Meg hasn't done Swamp. It's one of those things with it. That's one of the locations that, depending on your thought process in the moment, might not make sense to go and check Bonk Rocks, you know?
It makes more sense to Bonk Rocks than Swamp at this point.
It really does. But again, it's you lost so much time in Turtle Rock. What if you need to make a big play? What if you do Bonk Rocks as nothing and then still have to go down Swamp? Might decide to do it first. You know, the pressure's on at this point. This is fun. It's fun to watch. It's one of those scenarios where it's like, well, you know, as the viewer, what makes a lot of sense to do, but you can never tell. These runners can surprise you. Omega's already surprised us once by apparently not being comfortable with hammer trinects. I would have fully expected that from them. Yeah, of course, Krithel not having to do the full clear, just having to find that big key.
Which we don't know where it is yet. Was it vanilla?
Nope, it was in the lobby.
But he is going straight there now.
Yeah, seeing this tells me that Omega is probably banking on a more obscure hookshot placement rather. Oh no, Omega's gonna go and check this first. Yeah, you don't want to leave two items in Mire for sure. Krithel again showing off an extended door state dash to get over that little wall.
I believe that puts the last item on Vitreous. And now we get to see the horrible, terrible fight of Master Sword Vitreous with 13 arrows in your pocket.
That's like just enough to take care of the big eyeball. I don't recall exactly how many it is, but it's stupid. A stupid number. It's 2 silver arrows, which is a crime, I think. I think it's a crime in several US states.
It's 8 arrows for the big eyeball, and then I want to say it's at least 3 per little eyeball.
Well, we have 13 regular arrows. We have 27 silver arrows because Krithel doesn't have that silvers, the second bow upgrade anymore, because of that hard lock in Turtle Rock. This is a very, very interesting way for a race to be pretty even here. Krithel's got that hook shot, but is missing the silvers and is a sword behind.
Krithel showing off spooky action tech here in Misery Mire.
Yeah, spooky action at a distance.
How that works, I believe the flute sets an altitude value where bird flies off when you go into the warp. And then you have to use your boots to preserve that value when you're placing the Samaria block in the basement. And then it will set the fire rod hitbox that number higher than it's supposed to go.
Yeah, Krithel here. This is a very interesting fight without silvers. It's a very boring fight with silvers, as Omega is showing us right now.
Yeah.
Wow. Look how fast that was. Dingus Dangus.
No.
Ooh. And we know there's no fairy.
Because we don't know where the bottles are.
We know where one of them is. And that's why equipment is a big game changer. You can sometimes fall into the trap of thinking if your execution's good enough, you don't need to grab extra equipment, but
Vitreous tells you otherwise every single time. Every
Yep.
single time it's Vitreous. Omega flying to go grab his Smith chain.
Omega didn't do Smith chain. Did Omega do Graveyard Ledge?
He
might
not.
If we see Graveyard Ledge first, then that's really good for Omega here. That puts a really good lead in Omega's pocket. We can call it a lead at this point because Krithel's now behind in Misery Mire.
Here's the sick kid check.
If that was another sword, I would have quit. Because Krithel can't get it. I was like, please don't let this be another Master Sword Silverless versus. Well, I mean, it wouldn't be Master Sword Silverless because Krithel would get those silvers again. But Master Sword versus Butter Sword is a pretty big sword diff.
Even Master Sword versus Tempered is a pretty big difference. Because, remember, with Master Sword, you have to spin.
Yeah, really the biggest difference in the Ganon fight between Tempered and Gold Sword, in my experience anyway, is just how effortless the 1/1 cycle is. With Tempered, you have to do some trickery, do some extra work. With Gold Sword, you just have to not mess it up.
Honestly, for me, I will just stick to a 2/1 cycle with the fight. This is still not a fun fight. I mean, good Master Sword, good low percent strat here, but...
Yeah, so what Krithel's doing here is actually pretty interesting. Taking damage from the goo prevents the contact damage from Vitreous, which is very, very high. This is... Ooh, just enough arrows. Barely enough.
7 arrows there because, well, when Vitreous comes out of the goo to shoot lightning, he actually can be hit with your spin attacks.
Yeah, still not as fast as the silver strats, but...
Nothing is as fast as silver strats on this boss.
We take them.
Although I'll admit, silver strats, even if I have silvers, if I have butter and an invincibility item, I will go in and boots, of course, I will go in, go invincible, and dash through the eyes because it's more fun.
Yeah, you prefer to do that with the cape though, because the cane makes that a little slow. Okay, Omega going back up the mountain didn't find the hook shot.
Oh boy.
Flip flop around. Or maybe did. Maybe Penguin missed it.
No.
Nope.
He didn't.
Okay, never mind. He's
not.
not going that way. I thought he was going that way, so I thought maybe he had it and Penguin didn't
I think
see
he's
it,
so used to having hookshot, he just went that way.
Yep, I've done that a million times. Don't worry, Penguin, you're still reliable.
Ice Palace was logically hook blocked. But I don't think
don't worry, both of our runners cheated, so they didn't have to worry about it. Kappa.
I was answering question chat.
I know. I can't pass up an opportunity to rag on Ice Palace cheats.
Do you remember does chat remember what was in right side Ice Palace? So, the question comes down to, I know there's something called the Moldorm Bounce.
Oh boy.
Does Omega know it? Because I don't.
If Omega knows that and still doesn't do Hammer Trinex, We've got a lot to talk about in the post-race interview.
Because if he knows Moldorm Bounce, or dare I say it, if he can hover that gap,
I think at this point we're extremely likely to see Krithel taking the lead in Ganon's Tower. It's if there's a sword in there, Krithel's probably got the win.
If GT's big key is in left side.
Because at this point, I can't say it's likely that Omega doesn't have to go back down and find that hook shot. It's certainly a possibility. It's very slim at this point, though.
The chances are ridiculously slim.
Yeah, it's hard to fault Omega for skipping that too. Like I mentioned, it's like, okay, well, it makes sense to go. It's not that far, but you died twice on Trinex and had to bail and have to come back. You have any idea how much time that's losing you? And here we are, back in. Nobody's even finished yet, so like you have no idea how close you are to being in the race. You know, it's crazy. It's crazy to make decisions in this kind of scenario.
And this is why I love watching these races and being able to commentate, is because we can see these things.
Like both of these runners have got to be like, how am I on my last crystal dungeon and the race isn't over yet? I lost so much time. What happened? You know?
Because both of them had Turtle Rock instants that make them feel behind, let alone dying to Vitreous.
They've got to be thinking any second that dun is going to come in from their opponent. Both of them sort of have to be in that spot where it could just happen at any time now.
And now we have Tempered Sword Trinex, which is easier than Hammer Trinex.
It's the same as Master Sword Trinex, and it's kind of the same. It's basically like combining Master Sword and Hammer Trinex into the same sort of strategy. You know, you hit him with the sword just like Master Sword, but it does a lot of damage just like the hammer. But it's much more effective than well, it's only slightly more effective than Hammer Trinex. Hammer Trinex is just hard.
It's more effective. So it is more effective for two reasons. The sword is a faster weapon to begin with, and menus.
Yeah, but time in the game world is paused during the menu, so from Link's perspective, it doesn't make it any faster. You gotta respect the lore, man. Pause time. And with that, that's our last crystal. So we're gonna be opening the Ganon's Tower Big Key guessing game. Funnily enough, the one person who's not in go mode opens the guessing game.
I know, isn't that amazing? There are 22 checks in Ganon's Tower basement. One of them has the all-important Ganon's Tower Big Key. Once the start is put in chat, please put your guess from 122 so we can compete for our internet points. Omega is checking the bonk check here in Hookshot Cave.
Did we see that from Krithel?
No, because Krithel didn't have boots coming up here.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, we didn't see it from Omega either.
Because he also didn't have boots coming up here.
He didn't have boots. Yeah, this that's one of those things. It's like you can do seed after seed after seed, but you don't know what to do in a situation where the game just doesn't give you the hook shot. Like I've never been in this situation. What do I do? And you have to be able to make those decisions.
Hey, if anyone's in chat, if any of our admins are in chat, what happens if this is a hook shot in the hookshot blocked big key, and we never actually see the big key come out of Omega?
Well, we have to wait until Omega picks it up. We had that happen in I think it was a match between Vortex and
I'm saying, what if he forfeits before we ever see it
get
picked up?
Then nobody gets the points, obviously.
There's our book. That's a nice mislead.
Yeah, I see. Now the first thing we see Omega check is the Ether Tablet. After he doesn't find the hook shot in the basement. He's going to full clear the basement, not find the hook shot. Going to go out, check Ether Tablet, not get the hook shot. Maybe decide to go up the tower climb, not get the hook shot. Omega is definitely going to commit to the tower climb before going back down the mountain because You don't go back down the mountain and then find the hook shot on the tower climb. That's just not. That's not something you put yourself in the position of happening.
So, you know the thing about Hammer Trinex we were just talking about with our good friend Omega? Can I point to Krithel's screen right now?
Krithel's aim has been much better. Krithel's been waiting for the right opportunities. Ooh, just barely. Just barely.
That was terrifyingly close.
That's one of the things. If you're gonna do Master Sword Trinex without half magic, you need to. Sometimes you just need to slow down, not worry about going fast, because it's not a fast strat. You need to make sure you stick it, because otherwise you gotta reset, you know?
Still, why would you go do that rather than Hammer?
Some people really just don't like Hammer Trinex. I can't blame them. There are things that I don't like that everybody does.
Alright, the out of logic... This is the out of logic checking.
If Omega finds the big key in here, do we see a hookshot hunt down not in GT? That's the question. Like, because if Omega finds the big key in here, then that means that the hookshot was available first. So it's not going to be in the tower climb.
I'm trying to remember Ice Palace, because where was the Ice Palace big key? Do you remember?
I don't at all. I was paying attention to whatever was happening on the player's screen who wasn't doing Ice Palace at the time, both times. Krithel hunting for another sword.
I don't blame him. I hate Master Sword Master Sword Cannon.
I welcome the challenge, but I hate doing it in races. That's kind of my experience with this game in general. There are lots of things that I love doing just because it's tough and I like the challenge, but in a race, please don't make me do it.
I've had the unfortunate pleasure of having to do a race with Master Sword Silverless.
Yeah, I've had that happen as well.
By some strange miracle, I won that race because I did Master Sword Silverless.
Yeah, it seems I've had the most Master Sword Ganons in Ambrosia Seeds, which is part of the reason I swore off that game mode. The most recent Ambrosia I did was very kind to me, which tells me that she wants to get back together again, and I'm considering it, but our relationship is in a very rocky state.
And Krithel enters Gan's Tower. Again, that book could mislead us to thinking hookshot could be on the tablets when we know it is not.
Ooh,
that is a deep
Omega.
Hookshot blocked big key.
What do we do? Omega, what do you do?
That
Omega searches the rest of the basement. Right side is available without hookshot.
Well, we've already seen most of right side. We just need no tile room.
This does mean that Omega probably won't go up the climb, though, if Omega's paying attention, because that does mean that... Excuse me. It does mean that the hookshot can't be on the tower climb. So that's one saving grace for Omega right now.
The biggest problem is the time.
Oh yeah, I mean at this point, Krithel is firmly in control of this race. Master Sword does throw a wrinkle into it, but this is Gold Sword bracket. If you don't know how to do Master Sword Ganon with silvers, I mean, learn how to do Master Sword Ganon with silvers. If the game demands it of you, you want to be able to take that out. It may not be easy, it may not be pretty, but you don't want to have to look for silvers or have to look for another sword in order to do Ganon. It's the end of the race, you want to finish it.
So it's worth noting that Bob's chest and those three checks there were in logic. Grabbing the big chest because you're here. Why not?
Yeah, you want to get that 15th heart container, of course.
I mean, seriously, why not? At that point, since you're going upstairs to go here anyways.
Yeah, Omega needs to check everything possible. Everything that's in
I
logic,
mean-
Omega needs to check.
That wasn't in logic at all.
Could have been. Can you can
Nope.
get to the big chest from right side? Does
You
right side
can't.
require the hookshot at any point?
The big key was hookshot blocked, my friend.
Oh yeah, of course, the big key. You need the big key to open the big chest. I was just thinking, Kelly, you can get to the big chest without the hookshot.
Yes, but you can't get this big key here without hookshot.
You can't get inside the chest. I like this tile room play. You're looking for a hookshot, you don't skip tile room. Looking for a hookshot here. Warms my heart.
I'm pretty sure Omega's had the unfortunate pleasure of this room before.
I had the even more unfortunate pleasure of thinking about doing it and then deciding not to and finding Big Key there later. That's
So,
even worse.
if you're Omega, where do you go?
Ether tablet, first of all.
Yes. It's right there.
If I suddenly turned into Omega, I would go straight to Bonk Rocks. However, that's not going to happen, so that's it's rough. It's rough to, you know.
Krithel begins to climb.
Fortunately, Bonk Rocks is going to be one of the
Easier.
yeah. It's one of the first things you might think to do because it's fast.
That depends on
You know,
where
I got
flew
boots
to.
late. I haven't done the boots checks. Oh, he also
He's going to
skipped
Ice Rod Cave.
I mean, I see this. You can get this right at the
Yes.
beginning.
It's just funny that it is an hour and 45 minutes in. We full cleared the basement, and
Actually,
we're just
you know
now-
what? Given that Krithel still hasn't said he's done with the race, if the hook shot was in here the whole time, there's no way that you know, if you have the hook shot that early, because you could have gotten it at the beginning of the game. That's kind of what Omega's thinking right now. Yeah, you'd be way more behind at this point if the hookshot was available there and you didn't get it there. Okay, that's a good sign. Kakariko.
He's going to go left and go Dark Worlds because he's going to do. He's
He
going
didn't
to
do
route.
Graveyard Ledge.
He's going to route for Graveyard Ledge here.
Maybe. Did he do Purple Chest? Did he go all the way through?
He did not.
No, here's hoping he doesn't go and pick up Purple Chest right now. It would be silly for him to do it.
No.
Yeah, at this point, you're really thinking, damned if I do, damned if I don't, right? You're like, you don't want it to be in this and then do it second, but at the same time, you want to find it as soon as you can. So do you do the quick ones or do you do the slow ones to avoid making them even more slow? Oh, he's picking up the... You can't run with the chest. Man, it's a strange choice to go grab the chest and then do this.
You can. You
Well,
drop it,
Yeah.
but it stays when you go in a cave.
Oh, interesting. I just guess
But
I've
it'll-
never really had to make this kind of routing before.
This is
Oh
Okay.
yeah, yeah, it stays put when you go in a cave. Sure, yeah.
outside of the fact we know where it is. This is an incredible routing decision for what he's left with.
I also don't think Omega checked. Omega didn't check.
Lumber.
Yeah, this check makes a lot of sense because he knows that the race isn't over yet. This would be one of the ways that the race is still not over, is if Aga 1 was required before going up GT.
But again, with what we know, this route is ridiculously efficient for what he has left.
Yeah, that's very true. If you still have Purple Chest available and you just go for these top things, then you have to go back and pick up the Purple Chest later. This way, you pick up the Purple Chest and can drop it at any point if you find the hookshot you're looking for. And here we go, as Bonk Rocks, as Krithel is almost at the top of the tower climb. Notably, Blue Mail and Master Sword versus Red Mail and Tempered. Unless, of course, the sword is in one of these chests, which Krithel will be opening because nobody wants to Ganon with the Master Sword.
Yeah, he is, and there's his. He now will go back to the tower. He will be behind in the tower.
Very behind. Krithel has this race firmly in hand as long as nothing goofy happens for the rest of the race. Krithel could almost play this as slow as required and take the win still. As long as nothing, as I said, goofy happens.
Keep in mind, outside of that safety, outside of his half magic and safeties of the invincibility apps, he has no safety bottles.
Half magic is nice. It's nice to have that half magic though, especially with Master Sword.
If Krithel is comfortable on Master Sword Ganon, he has this. But we have, at this point,
Safety
what we have is a race.
Safety. You get a bottle that late, can't even put the fairy in there. This is just rude. Like, if you had the bug net, you could, okay, I'll go down, bonk the tree, put the fairy in there, and have something, you know?
He didn't get his bug net, did he?
No, he did not. Neither runner has the bug net.
Yeah, that validation bottle is about the greatest thing of a seed.
Very good Aga 2 from Krithel. That was
triple.
Great.
That Aga 2 pattern is ridiculous. So, the ball is in Krithel's court.
Just imagine. All this time could have been made up if Omega knew how to do Hammer Trinix. I can't not give him crap about that. I'm actually very surprised that a runner of Omega's caliber is apparently not comfortable with that. It is tough. It is a tough fight, but I mean, with all the respect in the world, I expected better from Omega. Ooh, takes a hit. Very nice Ganon placement, though. It always trips me out when that spinning trident doesn't actually do damage to you. Though I suppose it makes sense because Ganon is quite tall, and it would be well above your head. Ooh, that one's not great. Yeah, Krithel's wisely gonna just back off. Again, the race isn't over yet. You can play it slow, and you could fall into the trap of playing it fast at this point. And that would be a mistake because that's how you make mistakes on Master Sword Ganon, and that's the last thing you want. You'd rather lose to playing Ganon a little bit too slow than lose to a fall trying to do it faster. In my opinion. I really think backing off on that fire ring was a good call there. So without any bottles, you don't want to play it too aggressive. Your other chance would be, okay, you chance maybe a hit, but you don't want to take because again, you don't have any health safeties, you don't have any magic safeties. You've just got what you've got, and now we're on to phase 4 in pretty good time regardless. 2 doubles, very, very nicely done on Krithel's side. Get your GGs in chat. And what a time. Hardlocks in Turtle Rock loses all that progress, still sub 2s, on a seed where Hookshot was in Bonk Rocks. And ended the domination of Dr. Wily to boot. Yeah, you didn't... is crazy. To both of these runners, again, how is the race not over? Omega's like, okay, now, well, of course the race is over. They've found Hookshot and Bonk Rocks. They know exactly why. But before that, it's like, okay, well, what happened before that? So, yeah, good stuff here. Omega gonna finish this out, and I think we're joined by...
Hello, Krithel.
Krithel.
Hello.
So, before we discuss with Krithel, Ezmar, on that ending card, can I point something funny out? Because
Go ahead.
Zero Suit Samus beat Ganon, we ended the domination of Dr. Wily.
Hey, you know, it's efficiency. It's 3 games at the same time.
Anywho, welcome, Krithel.
Thank you.
GG on that race.
Oh, that was rough.
Still a sub 2 though. That's fantastic.
Sub 2 after hard locking in Turtle Rock.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
I'll take it.
Yeah,
I got pretty lucky afterwards, but
the luck here is Omega gambled on Hookshot GT.
Oh, yeah. That's rough.
That Hookshot spot was mean.
Yeah, it was so back and forth though, because as you can see, Omega had the tempered sword. It was on Helmasaur, because Omega found the bow first and decided to full clear it. So it was like, okay, we're thinking, okay, well, here's Krithel. Krithel's got worse equipment. Didn't have the flippers going to Zora, so it didn't pick up the red mail. And Omega's had all this equipment, but it just kept going back and forth with the routing decisions.
And Omega will be dropping into Ganon right now.
But yeah, that so how did it feel when you picked up that flute finally, Krithel?
I mean, I wasn't feeling great at that point anyway, so you know, obviously it might have been good. The biggest problem with that seed was not getting the mitts. So exactly the same thing happened in this that happened in game 1, where I skipped town like Hyler Island, and it had mitts on. And if you get mitts like the first thing into Dark Wolf there, that's a lot smoother.
Oh man, Omega at 1 heart already on phase 2 Ganon. That's not fun. But yeah, that was an interesting. Ooh.
Takes a death on Ganon.
An interesting sort of difference early on was exactly that, the mitts. Yeah. Omega took a look at them and knew where they were the whole time, and you skipped it before going up the mountain, so, and ended up getting nothing for it, so.
Yeah, I knew when I found those mitts, there was a reasonable chance Omega had done Turtle Rock the first trip up the mountain. Which is like why I did Hookless Swamp and things like that to try and catch up.
Actually.
Did he not?
He bailed on Trinex.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't want to go into Turtle Rock when I was up there anyway, but...
are we getting a portrait from Omega? Because Omega's been sitting on that game over screen for a while. The rupee horde sleeps again, forever.
300 rupees on the pedestal to answer everyone's questions.
I'm just kind of wondering, are we gonna get Omega in here too, or is Omega gonna finish off that Ganon fight? It would be reasonable to not think you're gonna.
Omega stops this timer.
Okay, yeah, you're probably not gonna. Oh, maybe I should get the practice. My tempered sword silver's Ganon is rusty. Declining the interview. Okay, so then I can. I know why, what he's afraid of. He's afraid of getting ribbed for apparently not being super confident in Hammer Trinex. Decided to go for the Master Sword Trinex and just wasn't accurate enough with the rods.
Omega has elected to decline an interview.
Yeah, no bottles in that seed was rough.
Yeah. Now, on that note, that was a fantastic Ganon fight from you, Krithel. It's a very tense moment. You know, any moment of wasted time, you know, is a moment your opponent can hit that done button. But you held it together and first tried that with no safeties.
Yeah, I mean, I just went for it, you know. I didn't know where I was at that point, so... And there's a good chance I might have dipped out for a potion after if I died. I didn't really know. I just was going to see how my first attempt went. And fortunately, with Silvers, it was a lot easier. If it was silverless, I think I'd have had to go out and get a potion. The half magicking GT was hugely useful as well.
So do you have any final thoughts on this seed?
No, just finishes off the set of 4 awful seeds I've had during the last 2 rounds of the Mentor tournament. So it's been a very challenging last 2 rounds, which I guess is what you want.
This seed can go in the dumpster with the rest of them.
Yeah, I'm happy with that.
Well, we're going to get to the important stuff pretty soon here, so we may as well see that out. See how many bonks we were able to get with those late boots.
So, as we're getting to the important stuff, this game did not want you to have swords.
No, it didn't. Teased us with the sword on library, and then obviously never checking. Never checking Desert Ledge, but I could never have gone there until diving into the pod.
Given all that's left, I'm going to guess Blind was hiding our last sword.
Maybe did Omega also bail out of Thieves after the start?
Yeah, he did. And given you got 2 items, it's understandable.
Yeah, you might go back into the back of Thieves Town if it was green pendant, but getting 2 in the front, not a green pendant, you've got a lot of other stuff to do at that point. Yeah, total in-game time, 141. So that's...
plus or minus 10 minutes for the hardlock.
It happens.
That hardlock was unfortunate.
Yep. Not what I was looking for at that point.
This was a bangaroo of a race. GG's to Krithel for clutching it out despite everything, you know? And to Omega, too, because it's a hard race to continue on, and that Ganon was not too far behind, all things considered.
Huge shout out to Krithel and OmegAtoisk, our runners today. They put on an incredible race here. Please, give them a follow. They deserve it. Also, a huge shout out to Oro, our Restreamer, who's put this entire project together for us today. As well as Irritablepenguin, our tracker.
Yeah,
Please follow them as well. And shout out to Ezmar for joining me here in the commentary booth.
Yeah, thank you, Zeke. I was just about to mention, we've got another Restream coming up, I believe, at 2 p.m. Eastern. And that's going to be Thornetto versus Nephistos, if the schedule is up to date and accurate.
I believe it is. And then we also have one tonight at 8:30 for the gold match final game 2 between Scoople and Floyd, notably commentated by 2 of the Go Mode podcast hosts, Tim and Dante.
Yeah, that's gonna be a fantastic race. Both of those runners extremely skilled, very good races from both of them in the past, so that should be exciting to watch.
So, shoutouts to runners, shoutouts to our crew, and shoutouts to Go Mode Podcast, and please join our Discord. We like having you here, and we like discussions and learning. Do you have any thoughts? Do you have any thoughts today for our...
I'm just glad that seed happened now, so now I can't get it later. We got it out of the way. I never have to play that seed.
That seed was ugly.
But yeah, so I guess we'll see you back in probably an hour or so, if we can get some volunteers for that restream.
Oh,
it looks empty right now, but
there's in the volunteer Discord channel, we've got commentators already. I believe we've got a tracker set up.
So yeah, nobody updated the.
It happened in the last 15 minutes.
Hey, that's how it goes. We've got a show, ladies and gentlemen. So yeah, see you all back then.